Welcome everyone to our 34th? Our 34th live stream on the space shooter DevVenture. Just give me 1 second. Trying to make sure everything is working. Yes, okay, good. So at the end of our last live stream, Hi, thanks for joining. So at the end of our last live stream, we have kind of encountered some of these issues with our navigation setup, and the reason for that, of course, is because we are halfway through the implementation, right? So we've created the design pattern, but we haven't fully implemented it yet, and now's the time to actually begin that implementation. So let's carry on with this. I gave DeepSeek all of the script files that we were working on, so it could diagnose what the issues are and how to fix them, or rather what needs to be done before we can actually say that the system is working. And so let's just spend some time and go through this, and then we can actually implement them afterwards. So the first issue is that the enemy ship controller is still communicating directly with the enemy ships. And we know that because if we go into the enemy ship controller over here, you can see, where was it? I think it was in the process function. No, it was find enemy for waypoint, update waypoints. Here, on enemy reached waypoint. So here we're saying a ship is supposed to be of type enemy ship. We're not actually confirming that somewhere. Yeah, okay. This is actually where the debug error happened in our last live stream, over here. So the thing is, we are taking a type enemy ship, right? Because we've got an enemy ship ID from enemy ships, and we know that enemy ships at the top here is an array. Okay, well, we're not guaranteed that the move enemy to waypoint. This is the one. Okay. So here we go. We're trying to get a waypoint from the enemy ship node. Okay, but the problem is that the enemy ship node is of type enemy ship. So here, if I open up the enemy ship behavior class, you'll see here at the top, class name type enemy ship, and it has no variable called waypoint. Okay, so that means we need to obviously fix that part. Either we add a waypoint variable back, which is not the best way to do it, or we continue implementing what we were doing and change this so that it's not directly setting the waypoint variable of the enemy ship node. And so that's what DeepSeek's talking about. It's like you're trying to modify the enemy ship behavior script directly through the enemy ship controller when you already stated in your design pattern that you want to have this kind of layered system, right? Where the enemy ship controller talks to the NPC behavior manager, and the NPC behavior manager talks to the behavior, right? And the behavior manager and the behavior are children of the enemy ship. Oh, I'm well, thanks. Thanks for asking. And how's it going with you? Sorry, I'm trying to I'm trying to carry on while you're talking. So I'll keep going, but thanks for asking. And yeah, so we've got these layers, and remember we said that the enemy ship controller talks in terms of patterns, right? So it's got this pattern, and when it calls out the pattern, then every enemy ship in the scene recognizes this pattern through the NPC behavior manager. Oh, that's cool. So every NPC behavior manager recognizes the pattern and then chooses a behavior and then calls that behavior, which runs its logic and emits a signal when it's done. Okay, so that's the sequence we need to follow, and we're not doing that yet. So that's what DeepSeek's saying in the first step, right? Then the second step is that you are missing a signal connection. So the enemy ship controller's reference in the NPC behavior manager is not defined. And the third error is that the behavior system is not driving movement. So the seek behavior calculates movement, but it doesn't actually apply it to the ship. So the immediate fixes, fix 1, update the enemy ship controller to use the patterns. Okay. So in the function move enemy to waypoint, we need to be doing the patterns. So if waypoint ID is greater than 0 and the waypoint ID is less than waypoints.size, so if it's a valid waypoint ID, then get a new waypoint node, right, by using that waypoint ID to index the waypoints array and then assign that to the waypoint node. Then if the waypoint node is not null, right, so that's what if waypoint node does in GDScript, then create a dictionary called parameters, and then you've got target position, which is the global position of the waypoint node, and the waypoint ID, which is obviously just the waypoint ID. And pattern assigned dot emit. So this is the signal pattern assigned. We're emitting that signal, and we're sending the enemy ship ID, seek, and parameters. And then we print a message for ourselves to know that this is actually complete. And if the waypoint node is not null, then print out that you couldn't find a waypoint node. And if the waypoint node was not valid, the waypoint ID from the start, if the waypoint ID wasn't valid, then you print out that the waypoint ID is not valid, right? So that seems like a good idea. I just need to go back to the script and check that I've actually got the patterns set up properly in the enemy ship controller. Up here somewhere, I've got the pattern assigned, I've got the pattern cancelled, but I don't have a pattern dictionary or enum. Enumeration, no such thing. Okay, fine. That's fine. We'll use DeepSeek to list the fixes, and then we'll address each fix individually by giving it the full script and saying, okay, you know, not just contextual, do a full-on revision of the script, right? So fix number 2, connect to the actual enemy ship controller singleton. Okay. So for those of you who are new and for those of you who don't remember, we created a singleton for the enemy ship controller, which is a global script. You go to the globals, you'll see that we've got the pause manager, which you know, can pause from any scene, and the enemy ship controller, which again can control from any scene. And that's the whole point of the singleton, is that we can reference it regardless of which scene we are in. So yeah, so connect to the actual enemy ship controller singleton. In the npc behavior manager.dd, update the ready function so that you are using enemy ship controller oh, this is an outdated technique. We're supposed to be using the singleton variable name, which we gave it in our project settings, enemy underscore ship controller with uppercase letters starting, right? So you say enemy ship controller dot whatever, instead of creating a local variable for that. Instead of using the get node, you'd actually just use the singleton that we just saw. So this isn't going to work. We'll have to fix that. That's okay. DeepSeek sometimes gets confused between the old implementations of Godot 3 and the current implementations of Godot 4. So in the ready function, we get the enemy ship as the parent, and we make sure that it's a type enemy ship, right? If it's not an enemy ship, so if it's not, or rather, if enemy ship is not null, actually, no, in this case, it's checking if it is null, because if not enemy ship, so if enemy ship is not initialized, then push an error NPC behavior manager must be a child of enemy ship and return. So that means either enemy ship is null or it's not of type enemy ship. So one of those two cases gets caught by that if statement. And then you've got this function called discover behaviors. In our GD script, we can actually go and take a look at that, but I think we've looked at that already. And then this part is just using the singleton, right? So we don't need to do this. We don't need to check if it's not null because it isn't. It's already a singleton. Then we basically just do these two steps here. Singleton.patternAssign.connect, singleton.patternCancel.connect, right? And then we don't need to push this error either. It's literally just those two lines and ignoring all of the stuff around it. Okay. Fix 3, update behavior seek to properly handle movement. So I don't think I actually have a seek function. A seek script. Let me just go back to my scripts and check. Scripts, behaviors, steering behavior scripts. Oh, there it is. Behavior seek. Oh, there it is. Okay. I should probably send this seek script over to DeepSeek as well. So let's just have it ready for that step. Okay. So as you can see, behavior seek is actually quite comprehensive. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. So we can still improve it to properly handle movement. So function seek target delta. Just check. Where's the seek target one? Here. It doesn't take in delta. Oh, there's delta. Okay. So the direction to target, get the target's rotation, set the current rotation, and then set the global transform basis of the enemy ship, and then accelerate it, calling the accelerate function, change the local velocity, or rather set the local velocity, set the global velocity, and then set the ship's velocity to be the global velocity and call move and slide. And then in the accelerate function, if it's not at its current target speed, if current speed is not the same as target speed, if it's less, then do a linear interpolation towards target speed. Otherwise, just keep it the same. And then the update process call. So in the process function of behavior seek, we update the process function to do some things. So if it's not active, if not is active or not enemy ships, just return, just exit the process function. So that means that behavior seek, remember they all the behaviors have a active flag, right? An is active flag. And so when the NPC behavior manager calls a specific behavior to do something, it just sets that is active flag to true. And that doesn't actually do that. It sends a signal to it's got an activate function, right? And the activate function sets is active to true. So it's a bit more advanced than just saying, hey, set your is active to true, and then it does its thing. So it checks if it's active, and it also checks if it belongs to an enemy ship. So if the parent class, like the root node or whatever, is of type enemy ship, then, or rather if it is active and of type enemy ship, then we do the rest. But if not this or this, either one, if either of these are false, then it's going to return. No, this is an or statement, which means it's only going to return false No, that's correct. It's only going to return false when both of these are not true. And because we're using not, that means it has to be is active and enemy ship. Okay, yeah. Just got confused for a second. Then we calculate the distance to the target using the distance to function. And then we check if the target has been reached. And if it has been reached, then we emit a signal, behavior completed. What behavior? So rather who completed the signal, or rather who completed the behavior, which behavior was completed, and what is the status of that completion. And then any data that it contains as a dictionary, right? So the target position and the final distance. So once it's done, we set is active to false, and we call the return on this process function. If it hasn't reached the target, then we call seek target. Okay, because it hasn't reached the function, and so it needs to seek the target. And then we remove the old waypoint reference. So what does this fix? It has proper signal flow. So the enemy ship controller sends pattern assigned to the behavior manager, which then calls behavior seek. It has actual movement. So the behavior system now properly controls ship movement. And it's got architecture compliance, which means that there's no more direct communication between controller and ships. And there's working integration. So all systems now talk to each other correctly. So after applying these fixes, we then check by pressing num1 to 9, and this should assign seek patterns through the behavior system. Then we check the console to make sure that there are messages to reflect the behavior that we are seeing, or if it's not behaving as it should, we can use those console messages to see what is working and what isn't working, and where does it stop working. Then we verify completion. So we should see the seek behavior is complete once it starts reaching targets and gets assigned another one. Okay. The key insight is that your enemy ship controller was still using the old direct assignment method instead of the new pattern system. So once we fix the signal flow, everything should start working. Try these fixes and let me know what happens. The architecture is sound. We just need to connect the pieces properly. All right. So let's just go back up here. I did give it behaviorseek.gd. Yeah, that's the full behavior seek. Okay, cool. So let's do fix 1. For fix 1, are you sure I only need to change the move enemy to waypoint function? I noticed other functions were using the enemy ship dot waypoint setup, or rather approach, which is now incorrect because type enemy ship instance does not have a waypoint variable anymore. So here it's replying, you're absolutely right. I missed several other places where the old direct waypoint assignment is still happening. Let me identify and fix all of them. So all problematic functions in enemy ship controller.gd. We fix all direct waypoint assignments. Move enemy to random waypoint, on enemy reached waypoint, on waypoint destroyed. An additional critical issue. I also noticed that the find enemy for waypoint function is being called but doesn't make sense anymore since we are not tracking waypoints per ship. So we should either option A, remove it entirely, or option B, update callers not to use it. But looking at the code, the callers are already getting the ship ID directly, so we can just remove the function. So option A then, okay? So to summarize, you need to update move enemy to waypoint, already fixed. Fixed above, fixed above, fixed above, and comment out this thing. Thanks for catching that. I was too focused on the immediate test case and missed the other functions that were still using the old direct assignment approach. This is exactly why we need to be thorough. These leftover direct assignments would have caused confusing bugs later. Making all these changes, the enemy ship controller will only communicate via the pattern system, which is exactly what your architecture intended. All right, so let's go back to this step here that wants me to fix move enemy to waypoint and copy that and paste it here. So in the enemy ship controller function, move enemy to waypoint, we just do this. We can get rid of that comment. That's not necessary. And use the pattern system instead of direct assignment. Get rid of that as well. And now remember that everything has to be in the right columns, right? So column 50 for all these assignments. So that one, needs to go to column 50. And then this we can bring down to there. Oh no, it has to be, unfortunately, it does have to be there. That's disappointing. But that means we can actually just do something like this. $30 and $30. Okay. Everything else seems okay. Good. So then we can save this and go back to DeepSeek to get the next fix. So move enemy to random waypoint. Where is it now? Here it is. We'll just replace this. And so the reason why it went red like that, in case you were wondering, when I pasted it from DeepSeek, these were spaces. And when I pressed Control S to save it, it converted them to tabs, which is exactly right. It's fine. So then the error went away because it's looking for tabs. And then if I go in here, we can check the on enemy reached waypoint. On enemy reached waypoint, this one. We'll fix this. Delete that comment and save so that we get our tabs back. Then again, we've got these. So this is on column 26. We'll make that 30 again, just to neaten things up. Move that over to 34. There we go. It's basically the same thing. Well, I mean similar, it's not the same. Okay, and then, so that was reached waypoint. So what's the next one? On enemy, or rather on waypoint destroyed. So we'll copy this and go here and paste it down here, like that. Delete comment, save. Okay. So that's fix 1. Now we move on to fix 2. Oh yeah, we need to obviously copy, or rather implement option A, which is to comment out find enemy for waypoint. Where's that? Here. So we'll just comment this out. Control K. We should actually do block comments for this. Because if we're commenting out this function, we don't want the documentation comments to persist. And they will if we use the hash for all of this stuff, right? So that's fine. Then let's just make my camera a little bit smaller. Something like that. Yeah, I think that's fine. And coming back to the work we need to do. So that's done. Now we need to move on to fix 2. What was fix 2 again? It was connect to the actual enemy ship controller singleton. Now let's make that correction to DeepSeek. For fix 2, I finished fix 1. Thanks for the help there. Now for fix 2, I noticed you are trying to make a local instance of the singleton. In Godot 4, we call the singleton variable we defined in the project settings directly. That variable for this singleton, or let me just say, I called that singleton variable enemy underscore ship underscore controller please adjust the code accordingly and make sure this is the only change I need to make in the NPC behavior manager.gd file. You're absolutely right. In Godot 4, we access singletons directly by their auto load name. Here's the corrected fix 2. So in the ready function, we create an enemy ship, or rather we set enemy ship as the parent of the current node of the NPC behavior manager, and we confirm that it is actually type enemy ship. And if it's not type enemy ship, or if the enemy ship is null, then we say the NPC behavior manager must be a child of an enemy ship, right? So either it's not a child of anything, or it's not a child of an enemy ship. In both cases, it's wrong, and we need to let the error message go. We need to let it push that error. Then we return to get out of the ready function. And if this is not triggered, then we say discover the behaviors, which is a function on its own. And we say enemy ship controller.patternAssign.connect on pattern assigned. Enemy ship controller.patternCancel.connect on pattern canceled. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, let's just make sure that everything is done. So that's the only change needed in the npc behavior manager.gd file. The rest of the code in that file looks correct for your architecture. No other changes are needed. The signal connections should now work properly since we are using the singleton directly. This is much cleaner and follows Godot 4 best practices. Thanks for the correction. Okay, so let's just copy that, go to the ready function. This is literally what I'm doing. This is literally what I'm doing. Let's just confirm this. So if I scroll, let me just paste my ready function in. This is the behavior, the _ ready function I had before you suggested a fix, right? So I just want to make sure DeepSeek understands that the code that I currently have is basically the same thing, if not exactly the same thing. So that's my code. And here is your suggested correction code. Right, so we'll copy that, we'll paste it here. And now I'm going to say, I don't see any difference in the code. Please could you explain what the difference is? So what's actually wrong? If the singleton connections are correct, then the issue might be that the enemy ship controller singleton isn't properly set up in the project settings auto load. The signals aren't being emitted from enemy ship controller. There's a timing issue. Let's debug this, add some debug prints to see what's happening. And in the enemy ship controller, we add this print statement. Then you run the game and check the console output to see which loads first. If the singleton is accessible, if signals connect successfully, no changes are needed to your current MPC behavior manager code. It was already correct. The issue must be elsewhere. Let's debug the loading order and singleton availability. My apologies for the redundant fix. Your code was perfectly fine. Okay. Let's pause the debugging process for now. I still have to implement the other fixes and then test the system to ensure it's working. After implementing everything and testing, if it still doesn't work, then we can start debugging. Let's do fix 3 now. Perfect. Let's focus on fix 3 for the behavior seek file. Update behavior seek.gd. Here are the specific changes that are required. So we need to update the seek target function to accept delta, and then update the accelerate function to accept delta, update the process function to accept delta, and the summary is that we add delta to these 3 functions, that the movement system now properly uses the ship velocity and movement slide, and that these changes will ensure the seek behavior properly controls the enemy ship's movement with the frame rate independent physics and uses the correct character body 3D velocity system. And once you implement these changes, we can do fix 4 and fix 5. Okay, so let's do that. We'll go to the seek target and replace it with this code in behavior seek. Go to seek target and we'll replace it with this code. Oh, it's complaining because seek target has a delta. And accelerate is supposed to have delta too. So let's add that in. Okay, so the seek target is fixed. Now we'll go into the accelerate function and we'll replace that code as well. We can save this. And the last step is the process function. So we'll go back to the process function and replace it with this code here that we've copied. Okay. $70, $70, move these over to $74. Okay, that seems fine. Oh yeah, so column 45, so this needs to go to 45, and then these need to go to 45, so cool. Excellent. Okay, fix 3 is done. Let's do fix 4 now. So for fix 4, we need to update the process function in behavior seek.gd to pass the delta parameter to seek target. However, looking at the code from fix 3, I see we already did this as part of the previous fix. Let me verify the current state. From fix 3, your process function in behavior seek.gd should now look like this. If your code already matches this, then fix 4 is already complete as part of fix 3. Takes in delta, distance to target less than 2. Yes. So let's move on to fix 5. Remove the old waypoint reference from enemyship behavior.gd. Check if there's still a waypoint variable declaration in your enemyship behavior.gd and remove it. If you don't have waypoint variable in that file anymore, then fix 5 is already done. In enemyship behavior.gd, remove if this line exists. So enemyship behavior. Let's just make this a block comment. Like I said before, the double hash is a doc comment, documentation comment, and I don't want to have documentation comment statements for sections of code that are commented out. So if I do block comments, it comments out even the documentation comments, which is what we want. That's exactly what we want. Okay. So I don't see a waypoint for a variable here. Then again, we just make another block comment here to close off this section. I need to implement the shoot.gd script still. Okay. Enemy ship behavior. It looks like all fixes are now applied. I will begin testing to confirm that everything works as expected. Okay, so let's do the test. We'll go to behavior seek, or rather testing seek behavior, and make sure that everything's working. So let's run this. If I press num2, enemy 0 assigned seek pattern to waypoint 1. Okay, so it's printing out the messages and not throwing any no errors are being thrown, but it's not actually moving. So let's try and figure out what's going on there. Okay, we'll copy everything. I pressed all the num keys and the ship didn't move. I was using testing seek behavior .tscn as my testing scene, and the enemy ship didn't move to a waypoint automatically, nor did it move to a manually assigned waypoint. Here is the console output so you can help diagnose the error. Let me know if you need anything else to help identify the error, like script files, for example. Okay, so it's saying looking at the console output, I can see the issue. The pattern assignment is working. We see enemy ship 0 assigned seek pattern to waypoint X. But the seek behavior itself isn't activating or running. The signals are going from enemy ship controller to pattern assigned, but the behavior system is not responding. Let's add debug prints to trace where the signal flow breaks. Just check something. If I go to the enemy ship, do I have a seek? Seek seek child. I don't even have an NPC behavior manager child. So that's the problem. It's very strange why you don't have these things attached. So let me go to the file system, go to scenes, go to components, NPC components. We'll add a behavior manager to this, and the NPC behavior manager should have a seek component. So now if I go to testing seek behavior, it should work. If it doesn't work, then we can start looking at why it's not working. But we kind of know why it wasn't working already. So if I press 2, if I press 4, if I press 9, okay. So we're getting debugger error messages. Let's go see what they're talking about. Unknown pattern seek. Okay, so if I do another run and then I quit and check here on top, it should say found a parent of type enemy ship. So that's working, but it's giving me this error message in the debugger, unknown pattern seek. In the NPC behavior manager, copy the error, I didn't have the NPC behavior manager node attached to the enemy ship. Scene. I fixed that and made sure the seek node, the seek node was attached to the NPC behavior manager scene as well. When I run the game, it still isn't moving to the waypoints when it should, but I'm getting this error message. Here is the code as I have it. NPC behavior manager, copy everything and paste it as full context for DeepSeek. And now please help me find the cause of this bug. Found the issue. The problem is in your pattern matching logic. In the enemy ship controller.gd, you are emitting pattern assign.emit, enemy ship ID, seek, and parameters. But in NPC behavior manager, your execute pattern function only recognizes these patterns: patrol, attack, and flee. It doesn't recognize seek as a valid pattern. So the fix, you have two options. You add seek as a recognized pattern, or you change the enemy ship controller to use patrol instead of seek. So let's do this one. We'll add seek in under execute pattern. Execute pattern. Seek is seek, patrol should be patrol, right? So we can add patrol back in once we actually implement a patrol behavior, but we don't have one. So we'll just name that one as seek, okay? I chose option A, point A. Or rather, I chose a modified option A instead of adding another pattern called seek. I overwrote the patrol pattern with seek. There is no patrol behavior yet, so we can add that back once we've defined it. Perfect solution. That makes complete sense. No need to have a patrol pattern until you actually implement patrol behavior. Using seek for the basic movement pattern is much clearer for now. What you should see now is that there is no more error. The unknown pattern seek error should be gone. Pattern assignment. Enemy ship controller emits a seek pattern. Pattern recognition. The NPC behavior manager recognizes seek and activates the seek behavior. And then movement. The enemy ship should start moving towards the assigned waypoint. The next steps to verify. If it's still not working, then do these things. Okay, so let's make sure that it's working. And if it isn't working, then we can look at what to do if it still isn't working. Right, so let's just give this a run. Okay, so it's not moving. If I say go to waypoint 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it's still not working, and we are still getting this error message. Behavior not available. Activate behavior. Behavior not available. If current behavior is available behaviors dot behavior type. So where are the available behaviors? It's a dictionary. It's an empty dictionary. And we've got discover behaviors, which is over there. If it's in group behavior nodes, if seek is in group behavior nodes, which it isn't. Okay, so let's add that as a group. So it's a behavior nodes. That's a global group. These are nodes designed to hold specific NPC behaviors. NPC behavior manager. Behavior nodes. Okay, let's give that another try. We'll run the script, testing seek behavior, and go. Off it goes. There we go. Choose another one. That's quite a lot of inertia you've got there. Okay, we've got some errors. So it seems that we've got lots and lots of errors. And we've also run out of time. We actually gone 6 minutes over time. So I'm going to close things off here. Going to make a shout out to Cubes. Thank you so much for your support. He's our junior DevVenturer in the coffee memberships. And for everybody else, thank you so much for your time and for your attention.